firstly, how did this whole concept, of the script of Mr. and Mr. A really come into your mind?
Well, I've been wanting to A, make a love story for a long time. B, I've been wanting to make a film about a journey because as I keep saying, it's an external journey can become a very wonderful symbol, a wonderful metaphor for an internal journey into yourself. And somehow the two got combined, And actually I'd heard a real life incident about a bus which had been caught in a curfew because of a communal riot in somewhere in Bihar, in a place called Rajarappa near Ranchi in the year 2000 in October. And about how people in that, passengers in that bus just had to wait until the curfew was lifted a couple of days later. And this struck me, and I thought, well, this is the time when one makes friends or enemies, or attachments form, break, all kinds of things. People find out things about hitherto unknown people that they wouldn't have otherwise. So that kind of struck a chord, and how then these passengers, human beings caught in a certain situation altogether, would then become dependent on one another. They'd form their own little world. So that is something that was, intriguing me, and a story came out of it.
So, by making this film, like any kind of message that you thought that you really want to bring about?
See, I don't like conscious messages, but certainly there is, a message does come through. I'm completely aware of that, and I'm not averse to it either. Message of humanity, really, a broad human message is that, people should not be categorized into narrow religious compartments, and that, that underneath all of that, all these man-made divides, there is the essential humanness of a person. And when you strip those outer superficial layers and you get to see the person inside, then everyone's the same.
India is a country with a lot of religions actually, and at times, especially when it comes to Hindu Muslims, so at times don't you think it could have created some kind of a controversy?
My film? Well, I did think it might create a controversy while we were shooting, which is why we did it really without any sort of letting people know. Just quietly went and shot and didn't tell the story. I'd forbidden the actors to divulge the story. It was we just said it's an eventful bus journey when two strangers come together, but we hadn't said Hindu, Muslim, etc., because while we were shooting, I didn't want some stupid person to make more of it than there was to it, and then to blow that up out of proportion and everything to stop, and all that kind of thing. I just didn't want to get into that hassle. And we shot quite uneventfully. We had some weather problems, but no other problems. And once the film is made, now that people have been watching it, this doesn't seem to bother people at all. There's been nothing. In Bombay, I believe in Bombay and Pune, 2 shots have been cut by the police. And this I am completely enraged about, because this was a film that has, passed the censors uncut. The censors, in fact, thanked me for making such a beautiful film. And then suddenly these 2 bits were cut. Why? Because apparently they feared law and order problems. I am saying that law and order problems keep happening. Law and order violations are allowed to happen. And then when some realities are portrayed in a film, then suddenly everyone sits up and tries to prevent hypothetical, imaginary, maybe will happen law and order problems. This is ridiculous. And I think it makes a big fuss of the censorship process.
Okay, coming to the cast, did you always have, your daughter Konkana in your mind, before, while you were on the script?
The computer used to be in her room. And while I was writing, I used to keep reading out it, listen to this bit, I would read it out to her. And then she would react. And by the way her facial expressions changed as she reacted, I started seeing her in that role. And it seemed the most natural thing in the world to cast her. One, I had done 2 films with her. One as her mother, playing her mother in Rituparna Ghosh's
Just mention that, either your daughter or Konkana, any of the two.
Okay. I had done 2 films with Konkana earlier, since she, after she was grown up. One was Konna by Aparna Sen, where Aparna had asked me, the director had asked me to attend the sets, you know, to generally help. And I'd done so because this was Konkona's first film as a grown-up, as an adult. Then the second film was Rituparna Ghosh's Titli, where Konkona and I play mother and daughter. And I was well aware of her abilities. So I knew that she would be able to do it.
How about Rahul?
Rahul I had seen in English August. And then again I had seen Rahul in Split Wide Open. And the two portrayals were so different. I said, hey, you know, this guy can act. And Rahul had sent me, at the time of Yugant, one of my films before this, some photographs had been sent to me. And I liked the look of him and I said, oh, you know, must think of using this guy sometime. And then, you know, then all this had been dropped. And then Rahul had read the synopsis somewhere and he called me and he said, you know, I loved your synopsis and loved to act in this film, etc. And the fact that he was so keen to do it was a major point in his favor, in favor of casting him, because only when someone believes in the story, in the film, will they give their best. And Rahul really believed in it and he did give his best. I think he's wonderful in the film.
You know, before you actually started the shooting of the film, whatever you had in mind, at the end of it, did it really come up exactly the way you wanted? Or?
It never does. It never does. You know, the best part of the whole filmmaking process is the part when you're writing. Because when you're writing, it's pristine, it's pure. There's no contamination of other things. Sometimes, you know, a whole lot of other inputs will enhance and enrich a film. Of course, that does happen. But the purity of the concept keeps changing in the process of filming, you know. And you feel, oh, I had wanted, for instance, I had wanted a lot of fog and stuff, which I didn't get because the weather didn't, you know, there was no fog. So there are times when you want the sun and the sun will not be there. There's times when you want a certain kind of effect which you can't get. That keeps happening. But there are certain other things which come in which you know, you never know, that you didn't know that you would get those wonderful things. So it's pointless to be rigid about it.
It's like you've always been stuck to these kind of films. You've never really gotten to this masala kind of films.
Why would I? I mean, it's not my kind of cinema, bus. That's all I can say. I don't know, up to this point, it's not my kind of cinema. I might do something like that just for fun, but frankly, I like making the kind of films I'm making. I mean, when one hears of 450 million, 500 million, 45 million, whatever, compared to that, you know, I would make it for much less. So my kind of cinema, if marketed right, can become extremely viable. You hear of big multi-starrers flopping the whole time. My kind of cinema, or our kind of cinema, because there are a whole lot of us who believe in this kind of cinema, that can become viable if marketed right. That's a very, very important condition, of course.
So, you know, what do you all really have in mind? What kind of films do you all really want to make? Realistic kind of films, or it's always got to be a social message? How does it
Not necessarily a social message. It has to be meaningful cinema. Meaningful in the sense of it should. I personally believe in cinema that leaves you a slightly better person after the experience of seeing the film.
Mr. and Mr. Iyer being nominated for the Screen Awards. So how does it really feel, you know?
Great. It's a recognition of the merit of the film.
What kind of films are you really looking forward to now next? Anything lined up?
Well, a couple of ideas which I'm toying with, but I cannot give you a definite answer to that yet because it hinges on many things.
Cool. All the best to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.